Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm taking the Intro to Serato class. I surrounded myself with lots of friends who made music, but I think I was always scared to do it myself. The hardest thing is obviously sharing whatever I'm learning with other people. I think that's why I wanted to do in-person classes, because I think it would sort of force me to face my fear of sharing whatever I'm learning. I remember years ago, I tried to teach myself with just watching YouTube videos, and it was not gaining traction. And so just having that in-person class, it makes so much more of a difference. So I think it's helped me tremendously. What's helped me the most is just having a community here, the teachers, the students. I feel like everyone is so nice and we're all just hyping each other up. I definitely feel a lot more confident to kind of go into the unknown after taking the intensive for sure.
What's up? I'm DJ Meech.
Hi, my name is Shay. I'm at an event with the Big Apple Wooks.
This is the Big Apple Wooks mixer.
We are a group of friends that found each other through music.
Basically a bunch of ravers.
Tonight we're getting to create music together, which is this very magical experience.
I really fell in love with the group. They're like a family. They look out for each other.
As a collective, we like to support each other, be there for each other, and create things together.
Sound Collective facility enhances events like this because they provide us a space to learn.
We don't typically have access to the tools that were provided tonight, and having everybody in one room, being very creative and being able to create together is very important, and here we have the tools to do that.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Ted. I am a DJ producer from the New York City area. Throughout this course, we are going to dive into all things content creation and branding. We are going to talk about EPKs, scheduling, time management, live streaming, you name it. All of the things that you need to know, and arguably more importantly, the things that you do not need to know. If you follow me through this course step by step, you guys will become social media gurus, gaining traction, following, getting yourself booked, getting views, getting to where you want to within the digital space. This is going to translate to ticket sales, to bookings, to licensing deals, you name it. I was able to gain 10,000 followers in just under 2 months on my TikTok streams alone, and I want that same exact growth and success for you. At the end of the day, it's all about the work that we put in, and we are going to put in the work together in this course. So without further ado, let's get into it.
My name is Eric Nadal Thomas. I'm participating in the Intro CDJ intensive class. I would say the biggest challenge that I face is that there's so much information about how to be a musician, and I'm kind of someone who can struggle oftentimes to prioritize what is the thing that is best for me. Because I came here with an idea of the kinds of sounds I'm interested in, the kinds of music I want to promote, the kind of way that I want to make people feel. Going through a course and going through something like what Sound Collective offers is it gives you the structure to kind of go through that whole process, not just on your own, but with people who are actually professionals in this industry. So for someone to be able to give me some guidance and mentoring, it allows me to create the structure to make more progress than I would ever be able to make myself.
I'm Ruchi. I'm the founder of the Producers Club, New York and New Jersey, and the event today at the Sound Collective was really fun. We had a lot of people at different stages of production and DJing. It was really fun to hear different genres. It was fun to hear how different people interpreted things differently. It was fun connecting with everyone, and I can tell everybody gained something at the end of it. I think it's a perfect place to host these events because it is a place of learning, and that's what we're all here to do. This is an open space to ask questions and give feedback, and so I think Sound Collective is a really perfect place for that because we're all learning together, and it's just a very welcoming and fun environment.
Hey, what's up? I'm Lefty, and welcome to Full Vocal Production in Logic Pro X. In this course, we're gonna go over the whole process from top to bottom, starting with gear review, gain staging, microphones, tracking, multi-tracking, and comping vocals, going through effects, processing, and mixing. So get excited as we dive into the wonderful world of vocal production. Let's get started.
House the party. 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 House the party.
Hi, I'm Lena, and I took part in the Record Box CDJ class. And right now I am working kind of like music industry adjacent, and so I wanted to fully immerse myself in music, and I decided to take this class to kind of support that. I feel like the biggest challenges are really just like confidence and just having someone who also knows what they're doing, like be able to tell you like, yes, like this is what you should do and this will work and like you're doing okay. So I think since completing the program, I feel like I've just learned so much in-depth details about the tools that I'm using. Like number one, it's just impacted my confidence. I feel a lot more confident in what I'm doing. But I also feel like I've gained a bit of a community, and now I'm really just looking forward to creating new things. And then once I've like created a couple of things, then I think I'll like move on more towards like performance and like figuring out who I am as like a full-blown artist.
My name is Mike Weiss, founder and president of Nervous Records, and we did a panel discussion tonight at the Sound Collective, where myself, Hector Romero, and Mark Graziano talked about the process of A&R.
We had an amazing time, met a lot of cool people, talked a little bit about the music industry.
This is an industry that's been around for many years. It's going to stick around, and you can do really well in it. It's a great industry, but you got to be patient. You got to build your talent base, build your community, and when you're ready, you know, then you have the skills you need to really make a career out of it.
Underboss Law Finesse. Today was the sneak preview listening session for my upcoming album, SB 1200 project, Sounds and Frequencies in Technicolor. So this is the first time I'm actually giving you an in-depth look of what I did with this, you know. People gonna be like, you know, I knew it, but y'all ain't know it. The vibe was incredible. This is more intimate, this is more personal. This is, you know, this is from the heart. That's the difference. The stuff that I do, it has to have detail. I think working as a producer, if you get to sit with an artist, you get the best. Oh, this was amazing. But to have a facility like y'all, very professional, very on point, and I couldn't ask for nothing more than what it was. Truly appreciate everybody coming out, man, and making this session what it was, you know?
What's up and welcome to Sound Collective. It's Morsi here, getting ready to teach you how to program drums in Logic Pro. In this course, we're gonna go through several different genres, including rock, hip hop, reggaeton, Afrobeat, and dance. And while we're at it, we're gonna use Logic stock plugins and sounds, so you're good to go and ready to get started. Let's dive right in.
Hi, my name is Peter Pizza, and I'm taking the course at the Intro to Serato. Since I was a little kid, I was just amazed by the whole setup and what you can do with the turntables and everything. So I pursued it when I was younger and started buying DJ equipment and doing parties. So my kids for Christmas enrolled me in this course, probably the best Christmas gift I ever got. And I learned how to DJ digitally now. No more carrying crates of records. It impacted just tremendously. I never knew about cues. I never knew about all the effects you have on the board and everything. It was a great experience. It really is a great experience. And I think the only goal I have is the same goal I had when I started back then, is to have parties, throw big parties, and have a lot of people enjoy themselves and just play music for them.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm John Proper Villains. I've been DJing for about 20 years in bars, clubs, underground raves, a couple of festivals. This class is gonna be an intro to basic mixing techniques and phrasing. I'm gonna break down the structure of different genres of music. I'm gonna show you some basic techniques for gridding, cue pointing, and hot cueing your songs in Rekordbox. I'm gonna show you the basics of harmonic mixing, and then I'm gonna show you some DJ mixing techniques. So let's get started.
I came out tonight for the Evolution of Media, hosted by and presented by DWI and the Matrix Studios.
So it was a really great conversation. We talked about social media and marketing, and all of that has evolved throughout the years. And now, you know, podcasting and all of that good stuff. So it was a really great event. We talked everything media, everything PR, and advancing your career, basically.
This panel was pretty dope. It gave me some information I did not have. I think that everything that was given is very important for all artists.
You know, and these events are super important because, for example, today, this was a free event that you can come in and just get some free knowledge, right? Some free gems.
If you didn't see the whole thing, if you weren't here tonight, make sure you watch the playback, go online, check it out. A lot of dope information that you don't want to miss.
Hi, my name is Anna Rahman. I am a DJ, producer, creative technologist. The Advanced Sound Design Workshop at Soundscape Microfest was probably one of the most rewarding workshops I've done in a while. I would hope that the attendees of the Advanced Sound Design Workshop are encouraged and inspired to break out of their comfort zones and try different ways, methods, and different creative pathways to composing their tracks and finding their own innovative ways to put together their workflows in order to experiment and find their own signature sound.
This is OP, Artist Relations for Serato. We're here at the Sound Collective today. We're cooking up with hardware while my man cooking soul.
Let's get it started. Showtime. This is it. This is the question. Even my mom can make a beat on this. No joke. You're gonna see it right now. So for instance, if you're ready, you can just... Man, it's that easy. Literally. Did I just change your life or not?
We got like 25 producers outside right now making beats.
Today was my very first beat battle in my life.
It's super cool that someone can come today and just make a beat from scratch, and it just speaks to how intuitive Serato Studio is.
The important thing is to have fun and make like some dope shit, you know?
To learn more about what Serato can do.
There's just so many amazing new tools that DJs can utilize to, get their competitive edge and express their artistic selves in a more unique and authentic way. Everything from Serato stems, beat source, and streaming inside of Serato, Serato Studio.
This is the great part of that journey for these DJs to make that next step into music production.
I know I'm about to spend hours just tinkering in there now.
Being able to get together in a room, meet one another is super important, and having experts in the industry, show us new tools is also incredibly important.
This kind of places is amazing to meet new people, meet new producers, meet new perspectives about music.
The community can kind of come together and we can support each other. And it's really great to be able to see that happen here with the link up with DJ City, Serato, Sound Collective, Beat Source, and Beatport.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Sound Collective Summit. We've got some great events this week. We've had a lot of fun, and we're going to have another great demo happening here tonight. We have Evans Hybrid and our good friend Nish Babar from Evans Hybrid came all the way from Texas just to do this demo, and he's going to give you guys the whole in and out and around the kit of everything that Evans Hybrid does, and we're really excited. So enjoy, sit back, relax, and tune in now.
Yep.
Thank you, Nish.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the live stream, and if you're watching this a little bit later too, definitely excited to get you guys in. So like Tony mentioned, my name is Nish. I'm from the Evans Hybrid team. I work over at the Daddario office in Farmingdale, and yes, come and joined you here from Dallas to show you a little bit about sensory percussion and take you through some of the basic features and how you can integrate it into your production flow, practice flow, or even composing your own sort of tunes and stuff like that. So let's jump into it real quick. We're going to start with the PowerPoint, actually. So came prepared today with a little bit of extra notes so you guys can see. We're jumping into the Evans Hybrid Sensory Percussion Sound System today. So what is sensory percussion? Sensory percussion is our hardware, as we can see the sensors, or you might refer to them as triggers, sensors on the drum head, as well as the portal, which is back behind our laptop here. Our portal actually works as a normal audio interface as well, so if you would like to record into it in another digital audio workstation or within the sensory percussion software, which we'll get into here in a second, you are more than free to do that. So our hardware goes along with our software, which is the sensory percussion software, which you guys saw just a minute ago. So with that in mind, so as we get into it, essentially sensory percussion, this hardware allows you to change any drum head, acoustic, or mesh into a receiver for synthesizer signal, or an input and output for synthesizer signal. What this means is that sensory percussion works off of timbre. So as you go through, our sensors essentially give you the ability to get 10 zones per your snare and toms. And what these are is they're a little bit more timbral. So like a normal MIDI controller, and for this seminar, I'm sure you guys are all pretty familiar on the production side of things, so we shouldn't have to go through MIDI or any of the DAW stuff. So I'm really glad a lot of the other master classes we do tend to be a little bit more just drummer centric. So very nice privilege to be able to talk to some audio minded people. So with that in mind, the zones that we get on the head, they can either be location based, and they are all timbre based. And what I mean by this is when we hit a normal MIDI controller, we have maybe a certain level of velocity assignment that we can give it, but it may have some give here and there. Sensory is essentially made so that whenever you play in one of the timbral spaces, for example, the center, the edge, on the rim, with the tip of your stick, with the shaft of your stick, these all produce different MIDI outs. And so you can route these to do, well, any variety of things that MIDI can do. So without jumping too far into the rabbit hole of how this works, I want to show you guys really quickly just a couple of the core sounds with my fantastic guest, Alex, and show you guys kind of just the background of Sensory. So Sensory is in itself an eDrum product. It works again with mesh or acoustic heads. And of course it comes with all of your standard acoustic sounds. However, as we get into it, I want you to notice two things. I want you to notice the nuance that you get out of the heads. These are all mesh heads, by the way, so you won't have you won't have much in the way of acoustic drum sound, so you will only be hearing the sounds that come from the module. So Alex, could you come on up and play for us? Absolutely. Thank you. So we're gonna start out with just a standard sort of, we're gonna start out with sort of a standard acoustic drum sound. This is our Brooklyn Vanguard set. This comes, so the software itself, by the way, y'all, it does come with over 150 presets, so there's a lot for you to get started with, especially in terms of templates. But let's get into some sounds and let's jump into it. Woo! Yeah, very nice, Alex. Thank you. So as you guys can see, from a acoustic drums or just like an E-drum standpoint, this is the beginning of sensory percussion, the sort of E-kit product that exists with it, right? You can use it as a fantastic practice tool if you're at home and you really want some high-level sounds. Now, where we start to get into the really cool stuff, the good E-drum stuff, it's just kind of expected, right? Good acoustic drum sounds when you have a really powerful system like this, or just kind of the expectation, and we're there to serve that. Where we can get a little bit more nuanced and start to talk about the software of Sensory and how it is different from your average sort of E-drum or trigger or percussion pad system, is when we get into some of our percussion sound, especially in terms of talking about zones. So the next preset I'm going to pull up for you guys, and sorry to turn my back to y'all. The next preset that I'm going to have Alex demonstrate today is our pitchy perk. And one thing I want you guys to keep in mind, and Alex, can you do me a favor? On the snare, can you play from the edge to the center for me? So as you see, as he goes from the edge to the center, we get a difference in timbre, just like an acoustic drum, right? As you move from that center to the edge, you get a different articulation, different response from the drum. Sensory works the same way. So going back to what we were talking about a little bit before, Sensory can be multi-zonal in terms of pick up all your articulations and timbres and all the nuance of your playing, but it can also just be a single I hit and it plays kind of thing. So with that in mind, the last thing I want to show you really quick is that Sensory, as we go through, Alex, can you do me a favor and play with the rim tip on the bass drum? Cool. And can you play with the shaft now? Right. So the way that Sensory works, and we'll jump into the functionality of it here in a second, but it maps timbres all throughout. So when it hears one timbre, it sends that signal. It even knows the difference between like the rim tip and the rim shaft just due to the timbral difference that exists there. So Alex, go ahead and play our percussion kit for us a little bit, and then we'll jump into the really cool stuff. Thank you. So with that in mind, as you can see, it doesn't really miss a whole bunch. You can be very all around the drums, playing with all the different sort of timbres. You can play with, again, cross stick, edge shots, rim shots, anything that you can think of, even cross stick and stick shot. You can map all of those to an output. Now, with that in mind, on our Sensory kit up here, we actually don't have all 10 zones mapped. So Sensory is really cool in that you don't need to go as deep as it can provide, right? We like to say that every Corvette needs to be able to go 40 miles per hour, and Sensory provides you the ability to do so. So with that in mind, let's talk about how Sensory works really quickly, and then we're going to jump into our last preset here. So Sensory works by using two things, and you guys can find this on our Sunhouse manual. But Sensory works by combining a magnetic pickup element that is placed with a little bit of adhesive on the back. It comes with the system. You put that on the head, and that is a magnet, and the sensor itself is a magnet. So the way that it's able to pick up this type of nuance is through the electromagnetic field, kind of the same way that the pickup on a guitar works, right? So instead of it being pressure sensitive or you know, a velocity sensitive like that, it's actually using an electromagnetic field to pick up what's going on and map your timbres. Where this gets very cool, and we just saw Alex demonstrate our pitchy perk sound, where this gets super cool is with some of our melodic sounds. So you can map, just like any MIDI controller or drum pad, you can map these drums to be melodic as well as drumming. So Alex, demonstrate our kit and let's see what we got on. Thank you, Alex. Much appreciated. So as you guys can see, this stuff, once you get out of sort of the standard acoustic and drum sounds, there's a whole world of composition, synthesizing that can be had on top of sensory percussion. So from here, let's jump back into the presentation a little bit. Alex, if I could take the drum throne so I could take these guys through some of the software stuff. And thank you again for coming and playing. What a treat it is to have some drumming royalty with us for our sensory masterclass today. So thank you very much. Yeah, much appreciated. All right, guys, so let's jump a little bit into how some of the software works and maybe just a little bit of the background on where sensory percussion comes from and what it's meant for, what the system looks like, and all that stuff. So sensory percussion, like I said before, it's our hardware with our sensors and our software portal system that allows you to turn any head, acoustic or mesh, into an eDrum receiver. And like we talked about, it's very flexible, and the sensors can precisely identify up to 10 zones. And again, I would like to really drive it home that you don't need to use all 10. If you need to, if you need center and edge and a rim, do that. What makes sensory so flexible is that you don't have to be pigeonholed into one setting. So let's continue forth a little bit. Let's talk about just kind of the development of sensory percussion really quickly. So sensory percussion is is a partnership between Sunhouse and Evans Hybrid. Back in 2017, Sunhouse launched their original product, which was our V1. You can actually see some of the sensors here up on some of our beta sensors as we kind of went through the process. And this was a crowdfunding thing. What was really cool about the founding of Sunhouse is that Talakael and Tenoch, they're both New York natives. They're both went to music school up here. And Talakael, the sort of like mastermind behind the software, he basically was a gigging drummer out here in New York. And he said, man, it is so hard for me to take gear anywhere. So he started really experimenting on the mesh head side of things with these smaller type of acoustic rigs, and Sensory Percussion and Sunhouse was born out of a need, a necessity for just more flexible, more nuanced, and easier to pack, easier to install electronics. Yep, and so eventually we ended up partnering up with Evans, and we've kind of come out with more. So when this started out, it's very much a synth head product. Those that like analog synthesis or digital audio workstations or are really into making ambient music or creating their own sort of experimental stuff. This was really in their wheelhouse right at the start, and we sort of started to give it to the majority of like the producer community, the composer community, just to like get our drummer friends involved in a way that's not putting their hands on something that maybe they're not totally familiar with on the keyboard. It gives you a different sort of palette to go that way. So let's continue forward just a little bit more. So as you guys can see really quick, when you jump into the Sensory Percussion System, we have a combination of both mesh and acoustic heads here. Your kick has acoustic heads, mesh has, or sorry, your snare and tom have mesh. So again, you can use these on any and add timbres or add sounds to your already existing acoustic kit, or again, go back and do a little thing. So this is kind of where the majority of stuff happens inside of Sensory. Like I said, it's very flexible, so everybody uses it differently. Alex came up here and did his signature phasing polyrhythmic style for us, and it picked up all those nuances, though you might feel a little bit more standard with it, right? You might just want to practice, your average tunes on it, or maybe just get some practice at home. This is the sort of the perfect system for that. The thing that I like to say with Sensory is you can do all three. You can practice, you can compose, and you can perform. So if you can imagine, you're at home, you have your nice mesh setup. So as we get into studio stuff, this is where Sensory Percussion becomes very interesting. So the fact that we can use mesh heads with the sensors also allows us to take away any sort of bleed that would happen with your overhead mics with cymbals. So we have a couple studios right now, especially in Nashville, that are actually recording they're recording acoustic cymbals, but keeping all sensory mesh on the kit. And that's to get the same nuance that they would normally get out of their sounds. They can go in and boost those up or do whatever they like in two of our things, which, by the way, Sensory is a standalone software, but it's also a plugin inside of Ableton. So you can open up Sensory just like you would in its normal software in Ableton. So we have a lot of people doing recording stuff with that. With that in mind, as we're talking about Ableton, of course we have so many people out there live looping with it, making their own sessions, going through and assigning parameters to stuff inside of the digital audio workstation as well. So, as we were looking at the Sensory Percussion software a little bit earlier, as we were getting our demo for it, we were seeing the software, but this software also just opens up as a plugin within Ableton for your composition needs. We can continue to go through. We've had quite a people use it for video game and sound design. And finally, and I think this is kind of the coolest thing that we demonstrated with the preset, is compositional idea generation, right? That's a really just crazy term for experimenting, right? Getting out there and maybe doing something, finding a rhythm, finding a preset, or finding a sound that you may not have found, just kind of playing on your average drum set or maybe another electronic drum thing. Finally, and this is kind of the coolest thing, the MIDI out allows you to go all the way to experimental. So we've gone from, performance to in the studio and recording. The final thing is like kind of going out there, right? We also have a very experimental side of Sensory that just exists. We have many people integrating it with lights inside of art displays. We have people who throw it on tap dancing floors. We have people who put it on, wood cutting blocks, like a variety of things. If you can attach the sensor to it, you will get some kind of response, and some people tend to take that really, really far too. So of course, the standard use for Sensory is on mesh or acoustic heads, to do all of these things that we're talking about, practice, perform, compose. But of course, if you want to get out there and really make some weird, noisy stuff, really get out into the ether as well, Sensory is kind of the perfect platform for that. In fact, I would say it does it pretty well. So with that in mind, there is a ton of stuff that you can do with Sensory and integrate into your sort of daily practice, composition, and performance life. So with now that we're through all that, let's jump back in and talk about the software a little bit. So when you open up Sensory Percussion, we have three menus. We have our play, our edit, and our mix menu. This is essentially like any other digital audio workstation where you have sort of just a friendly, fun side where you can turn up different parameters. Oh, I want less volume, more reverb, less reverb. And these are all on presets, by the way, guys. So we are looking at things that have already been built out. So with that in mind, we have the ability to do that just on our first window. Now, where things get really cool, my friends, and I think this is where we're gonna get into the fun stuff, is within our edit menu. The edit menu is essentially the digital audio workstation, or one half of it at the very least. of sensory percussion. It's where all of your samples are placed, and anything that you do to those samples or instruments essentially happens out of this screen. And then finally, we have our mix window. And this is where you can do all your busing, sending audio out, input, output, anything, again, any sort of splitting that you need to do, any sort of recording stuff that you need to do, all kind of happens here. The last thing, my friends, is our portal, which again serves as a regular audio interface. So you get up to 7 inputs for drums on the portal. And then we also get 2 XLR, standard XLR 1/4 inch inputs, so that you can, number one, we were talking about the experimental thing, you can train other instruments to respond in a very basic way to sensory. And then also, you're able to use the portal as just a regular audio interface. Cool. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, there's a ton of background with sensory. Let's jump into how the software works and what makes it what makes it tick and what makes it pretty special. So we were back here in the edit menu. Now, this is a whole lot at the moment. There is a ton going on in here. So I would love to start with you guys on love to start with you guys on a new project. And so when we open up a new project, this is what we'll be looking at. So I want to take you guys through a very quick use of how our sampler works and how you can use it to make your compositions really nuanced and powerful, fun, and quick. So let's jump into it. So like anything else, you are able to use outside samples for anything that you put into Sensory, but for today we'll just be using our sounds. So as we jump in, we're going to go to, sorry, I'm going to pull this right here, excuse me. We're going to go to samples, and we're just going to find a quick drum sound that we can mess with just a little bit. So let's go into this Tycho pack, and we're going to find let's start with a edge sound. So I'm going to take this single sample and drag it onto the center of my drum. And so now notice we have a sampler that pops up, and just like Ableton, we tend to work horizontally in this digital audio workstation. So let's just talk about a quick couple things that show a lot of the nuance of Sensory and also kind of show us the basics of how it works. So inside of Sensory, just like modular synthesis, you can assign parameters to pretty much any part of the sampler. So for example, if I were to assign, and we do this by controlling, we could go to New Assignment, Velocity, and from here, I could actually flip these two. I could take that arrow, move it this way, take that arrow, and move it this way. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the decay down, or the attack down just a little bit. And we should see that we get this reverse tail end sound. So as I go higher and higher, the sample opens up. As I'm low, that sample stays nice and low. So that's how some of that dynamic nuance control of sensory percussion works. You have the ability to assign modulators to any sort of thing that you could really think of. Another really cool thing that I enjoy doing quite a bit, and especially if we go to a longer sample, is also assign, like, for example, we can assign the transposition button. And that can work on for example, I could put that on the edge. So anytime I play the edge, I'm going to get a higher, and excuse me, let me go ahead and put this on the edge as well so that it does it. There we go. So anytime I go out to the edge, sorry guys, one more time. Excuse me. Anytime I go out to the edge, I will get a lower or a higher tone, right? And I can blend these two samples together using that, right? So I can go single zone and just have one sound playing all throughout, right? I could literally have my entire drum playing this one sample anywhere that I hit. I'm gonna delete this really quick. Anywhere that I hit, it's gonna make the same sound. And notice that I have that velocity controller. So as I play lighter, I don't get much in the way of transposition. When I play louder, it starts to move around quite a bit, right? So this is just a very, very simple example of what you can do inside of Sensory. This is the essential sort of like building blocks of playing Sensory. The last thing I want to do really quick, just so you guys can see, is I want to show you guys a melodic way that we can mess around with this just a little bit. So right now we're in a drum sample. It's maybe not the most satisfying. However, let's go back and jump. So notice that I'm going back to, this is our sounds menu here on the side. So notice that I have my core sounds, sessions, sound packs, and this is where I'm going to find pretty much anything that I want in terms of presets. So let's go into electro melodic really quick, and notice that I can just like dig down even further. So let's use the pluck that Alex was using earlier, and we're going to jump into the, there we go. Oh, sorry. Let's go back here really quick. Subaqueous, beautiful. Subaqueous notes, high mapping. And notice I can keep going down and further until I get to the original sample, right? So let's throw this in here, guys, and let's see what we can do with this really quick. So notice in the center of my drum, I have my sample, but it's not really doing anything yet, right? I just have one volume, one note playing. So what's really, really cool about Sensory, especially if you would like to get into sort of your own melodic presets and building your own stuff, this is a really quick and effective way to jump into doing that. So the first thing we're going to do is come up to this little modules window up here, and we're going to open up our velocity, our pitch and scale, and our modulators. Cool? And all of these are usually hidden just to keep this nice and concise for you, but let's jump into it just a little bit. The first thing I want to do is I want to jump into my pitch and scale window, and I want to assign a scale to it. Let's just do minor for right now. Oh no, what's going on? You know, why isn't it working? From here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a modulator, my friends, and this will be called random step. And notice that we take our wiring from here, and we just go ahead and assign it to our note control. Now, we have two options here. We can either, we're currently on random, so that's this one right here. Notice that I'm just getting a wide variety of notes, and I've only just assigned it so that when the center gets hit, our note controller gets slid around. So that's how you can generate random melodies that will always work. With that in mind, we can also do the same thing ascending and descending. Right, so you can get nice sequences of notes through this. And of course, guys, you can also go through and assign these notes, customizably in whatever way that you would like. And our last thing that I want to show you here is that this velocity I/O area can also choose how hard or how soft you need to play to activate this. So when I play nice and soft, I'm not getting any sound. As I come into my highest velocity, that's when I get that response, right? So we can really use this to create, like, for example, a drum set that plays when it's quiet, but whenever I play super loud up in the higher velocities, I get melodic sounds. Cool. The very last thing that I need to show you guys that just kind of makes Sensory work is the velocity assignments. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive in that, like, oh, well, why would velocity do this? But velocity actually pretty much, like, in Sensory, it also has to do with like the area in which you're playing. So if I were to, for example, assign the transpose button here to, let's say, speed, right? And only in the center, because that's the only one we're using, I basically, whenever I play past, and you guys can see it right here, whenever I play past a certain speed or input value, I'm going to get a different sort of function within the controller. Oh, sorry, let me take off our velocity I/O so we can actually hear the whole thing. Put this back. So notice that earlier I could only play it at the highest velocities. So let's play from here. So obviously less in the way of melodic, but notice that every time that I play fast, it moves fast, but as I go slow, the transpositions become a lot greater, meaning they move, they toggle quite a bit larger, right? So inside of Sensory, you have a multiplicity of modulators and things that you can use to essentially create an entire world behind your drum set. Now, there's probably 100 other things that I could talk about today, but I certainly don't want to keep our audience up past their drummer practice routine time, where we should all be getting some practice today. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me today for our Sensory Percussion Masterclass. If you guys have any questions, I know that Tony has my email, and I will leave a contact form here. If anybody has any questions or wants to schedule a meeting with me in terms of just how to use Sensory or more information, we actually have a link on our website to a chat with a sensory expert. So if you just run to Google and you say chat with a sensory percussion expert, it should come up on our website. I want to thank you guys, the collective, for having me again, for all the all of the work and stuff that we've put into coming together and making this happen. This is such a fantastic partnership, and I'm so glad that just growing up in Texas in a huge music scene that's very different from New York. We didn't really have much like this. We had more standard band, and I grew up playing marimba and vibraphone, and that was great. But gosh, I would have really killed for something that was like this when I was young. So Tony, thank you so much for having me. The collective, thank you guys, and yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have a good one.